Great decorating is all about the details, including a gorgeous textured set of coasters. How we love a coaster. Functional. And why not be beautiful? Quince has a gorgeous set of woven rattan coasters in 3 terrific colors with their own little holder that you're going to absolutely love. And if you haven't visited quince.com/DTT yet, get on over there. It's everyday elevated living without the markup. From crisp 100% linen bedding and soft organic cotton towels to airy curtains and premium kitchen tools designed for everyday use. And the best part? Like Quince's clothing, their home goods are half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Elevate your space with home essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT.
What's hot and what's not? I'm Anita Joyce here with Kelly Wilkness, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Today's episode, Trend Report 2024. But it's also another very special episode because today we are recording our 600th episode. Can you believe it, Kelly?
No, I can't believe it, Anita. I can't believe people have been listening to us for all this time. We do sometimes think, how are we going to keep talking about decorating? But it's so easy. There's so much to say. We have so much fun doing the podcast, and we cannot be more grateful that we have developed this incredible audience of loyal, interesting listeners, and we just so appreciate each and every one of you and that you tune in each week and you even listen to the back catalog a lot. So thank you so much. So this is a celebration for us, but it's a celebration for all of us, everybody in the DTT family. We are so happy that you're here. You know, I did a little math, which is really not my strong point, but averaging, let's say, around a 40-minute episode each time, that's about 27,000 minutes of talking, and that would be 19 days straight.
I'm just tired hearing that.
If you're one of those people that says, oh, I found this podcast and I love it, and I'm going to start from the beginning, you could literally listen to us for 19 days straight, 24 hours a day. I would not suggest consuming decorating tips and tricks that way.
That might be a little too much Anita and Kelly for one day.
You know, hey, if you're into it, go for it. That's how long it'll take.
Well, when I'm listening to a new podcast, I love it when the podcast has been going for a long time, because if I like 1 or 2 episodes, I like to go back, start at the beginning, and then I can enjoy the hosts talking on the podcast for months before I have to repeat anything. So I think that's the good news. If you're here new to the podcast, there's plenty more where that came from. And I think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's another reason we're mentioning these archived episodes every week, to give new listeners or even people who have been with us for a while the opportunity to go back and dig into something that they may have missed before.
Speaking of highlighting past episodes, I thought today it would be fun to highlight our Trend Report episode on 2023. So I will link that in the show notes. It's always fun to go back and listen to these. And I was recently listening to some of our episodes from 2017, 18, 19. And so when I went back and listened to some of these trend episodes from when we first started recording, I would say things have changed a lot from those years. It's gradually, usually, so you don't realize things have changed, kind of like the frog in the boiling water. But things do shift a lot over time.
The poor frog. Yes, that's interesting. So you're saying you went back and listened to the trend reports from all those years.
Yes.
And just watched the progression. That's interesting. Maybe I'll try that too. But a lot of time it's a building, right? Because with the trends, even in the high-end decor, nobody's expected to throw everything everything out and start all over the next year. So for 2024, I'm finding that we're still in the woods. And by this, I mean that nature is still a big trend in 2024 as it was in 2023 and probably in 2022, although I can't remember. Nature, comfort, warmth, and an emphasis on sustainability is kind of the umbrella trends for 2024. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. Coziness, I think, is an overarching theme. Nature, I would agree with that, although we have a few exceptions to that rule. And I think we also need to put in our caveat, and that is we do like to stay on top of the trends. We do not follow them closely as far as our own houses go. We don't recommend that you do that either because it is a hamster wheel. If you're going to keep up with them very closely, that means pretty much throwing everything out every couple of years, and we just think that is a waste of money. It's not sustainable. It's not good for the environment. So I think classic items for your big ticket items and trend stuff for the small things is more of a fun way to go. But even on things like tiles or countertops for your kitchen, you need to know what's on trend so that you're not selecting something that's way out there, so that you'll be on top of things when you do try to sell your house. So I think it is important to know where things are going, where they are, and where things are headed in the future.
Yeah, and it's just so fun. You want to know what the trends are, and it's fun to run through the list and, pick and choose and nod or go, what are you talking about? So that's what we're going to do today. And after we've had design weeks in Milan and Stockholm and Copenhagen and all over the place, it sort of trickles down in the late summer, early fall to what the trends are going to be for the next year. And the paint companies have picked out their colors. So that's what we're bringing to you today.
They usually come out with a lot of trends. Some of them stick and some of them bounce back, because the public will seize on some of them and resist other ones. So it's always interesting what happens.
Yes. And it's, the one that everyone's saying, oh, like when the 80s came back last year on like in a blip. No, not everybody really picked up on that. And you might be sorry if you did. But curved shapes and wavy profiles are still in for 2024. We discussed this last year. So if you go back and listen to that archived episode from Trends 2023, I think you'll hear us talking about I'm not a big fan of curvy furniture. I think it's hard to place in a room, but hey, if you've got a room with a bay window, this is the time. You can get yourself an arched, curved sofa that will slide right in that beautiful bay window. So I'm picturing, if you have a townhouse in San Francisco or something like that, and you've got a bay window, hey, slide it in there. It's going to be gorgeous. But otherwise, I think it's sort of hard to work with big pieces that have the curve to them. And certainly something that's so curvy that almost leaning really deco, that it doesn't work with all other types of design styles. So I might suggest that you stay away from that for big ticket items. But things like mid-ticket things, like a headboard or something like that has more curves to it. There's no rule that says your headboard has to be a rectangle or even a square. It can have some nice curves to it and be interesting. I think the scallop was so hot in 2023. The shape, where we're seeing it on those adorable Matilda Gold lampshades, and then that trickled down to other companies making the scallop lampshades, scalloped rugs. There was just a lot of scalloping going on, and I think that was kind of in line, excuse the pun, or not in line with the curves. So we're still seeing that sort of shape in the 2024 items.
Well, it's interesting you say that these don't fit well in a house. Think about if you have a rectangular room and then you have these curved pieces, they don't work well because most furniture tends to be square or similar to a square. Chairs are slightly, maybe more not triangular, but trapezoidal shape. But the square or rectangular furniture is going to fit better in a room. And that's why my in-laws had a house that was a 13-sided tree house in North Carolina for a long time. And I remember my mother-in-law saying it was almost impossible to decorate it because even though she didn't have curved furniture, she kind of had, in a way, curved walls because they weren't, the walls on the outside of the house weren't squared off. And then so each room was kind of like a piece of pie.
Wow, what an interesting house.
Yes.
Is that still in your family?
Oh, no, we sold that. It turns out she was correct. It was a little hard to decorate, but also there were other issues with the house. The orange kitchen, the blue bathroom with the blue toilet, the blue tub. And, there were other things, but it was not to our taste and other issues. So yes, but that points to the dilemma of odd-shaped things and how difficult it is to work with them. Another thing that I am seeing is strong color on the walls. For a long time, gray was king. It was hot, hot, hot on the walls for a super long time. Then several years ago, things moved into the white direction and all the walls were white. And now I think, again, people are kind of tired of the white. And so now we're starting to see color and strong color, bold color on the walls.
Yeah, and that's super fun. We talk about that often, and certain rooms really tend to work well with a bold color. Particularly a darker, moody, bold color in a north-facing room can be really great. Just lean into the dark there. Colored glass. Now, this is a small trend and something you could easily add. Probably something you could easily add from a thrift store or consignment store. Colored glass is hot in 2024, and maybe that's somebody dipping their toes into the deeper colors in a way that isn't that much of a commitment. They're not putting it on their walls, but maybe they're putting some colored glass on a windowsill or in a particular spot in a room where it's going to hit, the sun's going to hit it, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful. So think about that, and if you were going to add some colored glass, I would suggest doing it in threes, the magic of three, right? So a tall one, a medium one, and a smaller one, maybe monochromatic, or you could even mix them up. But it's an inexpensive way to add something that's on trend for 2024.
So another thing that is popular now is silver lighting. Stainless steel, aluminum, chrome, nickel are hot. And what we are seeing is that brass, which has been hot for several years now, is out. If you have brass lighting, I don't think you need to take it out. This stuff just comes and goes. The silver will be in for a few years, then it'll be back to the gold and the brass, so I wouldn't worry about it. But if you're buying something right now, that's probably what you're going to see more of.
Interesting. I saw that too, but I think that's incongruous with the whole overarching nature, comfort, warmth thing, because brass is so much warmer than the silver tones. But yeah, I saw that as well. Stripes. I'm not a giant fan of stripes. I do think a cabana stripe can be really fun, and maybe for some outdoor pillows or something like that. And I do love a grain sack stripe, of course, but that's sort of, singular stripe, a little grouping of three or something come down the middle. But like stripes in themselves are not something I'm usually drawn to, but stripes are super hot in 2024. Again, that might be a place where you can add some color inexpensively and without a lot of commitment. Maybe you do some striped pillows and some really bold colors. That could be fun. But if you're a stripe person, this is your year.
I do love stripes on rugs. In fact, the rug that I designed for Dash and Albert was a striped rug based on a grain sack design, of course.
That was a really beautiful rug.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. I can't stop using dupe.com. This is an amazing website, service, best friend. I absolutely love it. So you find something that you really want and it's too expensive. It's a budget buster. Then you use dupe.com and you can find almost the exact thing or very similar products for much less. So I was crushing on this incredibly gorgeous coffee table. I had it in my mind. I had it in my Pinterest boards. I had it everywhere, but I just didn't have it in my house because it was too expensive. When I learned about dupe.com, that was the first product that I tested. And boy, did I find some amazing dupes. And I purchased one. So the original was almost $3,000. And Dupe showed me many choices, all the way down to under $200. Now, you may think something this extraordinary is hard to use, but it's so easy. Just type dupe.com / before any product URL in your browser, and boom, it instantly finds you less expensive alternatives. They even have an app and a browser extension you can download. No account required, no sign up required. It's completely free. that's completely FREE free to use. Stop wasting your money on brand names and start saving with dupe.com today.
What about this trend? Undone interiors. So this is, I would say, blowback to the overdone rooms we've seen on Instagram and Pinterest. So these are the rooms that are just decked out to the nines. They're perfection. There's not one thing out of place. And again, this kind of comes and goes where people see all these pictures, they love them for a while, and then there is a complaint that starts brewing about, oh, it's not authentic, it doesn't look comfortable, they're not owning their own look, they need to embrace imperfection, and that's, I think, where we're headed with that. But it comes and goes, and I don't see people suddenly, throwing dog hair on their sofa just so it looks undone. But anyway, we'll see how this might change things.
My dog hair is authentic, and I'm sticking with it. Well, I wonder if that's also sort of a fear, a pre-backlash to the AI situation where all these rooms are being put together and then put out there on social media, and they're completely unattainable, and they're making people crazy because they feel bad about their own house. And these are actually not houses. They're amalgamations of other people's houses or imaginary houses put together, something that would not really be attainable necessarily. So maybe there's a little bit of that going on. But that's sort of, rumply, a little undone, like you live there. Not too lived in, I mean, you want to have style, but I'm all for a rumpled linen something or other, or a dog shedding
that's
quietly
interesting
on the sofa.
Because I've heard people complain about linen wrinkling, and if you see linen and it's not wrinkled, it's not linen, or it's AI. I mean, it's not real, because that's what linen does.
Checkerboards. So when I say checkerboard, it's not just the black and white. It can be anything. It can be different colors. It can be a rug. It can be flooring. It just can be a little touch of something. So if you like that look, if you did flooring, I mean, that's a big commitment, but it is a classic look, the black and white checkerboard floor, the tiling, or even like a green and maybe an off-white or a gray could be beautiful. You see that oftentimes in an entryway, but I could see it also in a bathroom, or a laundry room might be a great place for that type of flooring.
I think it's a pretty look. I do like that checkerboard flooring look. I think it's a classic look. So, and that's good that that's coming back in. I think that's really pretty. What about the industrial finishes? Those are coming back. Specifically something like Demi Moore's Loft and Ghost, which was so pretty. I went back and looked at that. White metal columns or big, bold windows like you might have in an industrial setting, and a metal staircase. Those sort of things, I think, have been in style for a while. And any of that kind of loft feeling, I think is really pretty.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, it's funny. I have that image of that place she lived in my head for whatever reason. And so I was easily able to pull that out.
That was a long time ago.
Shut up. I watched that as a small child with a babysitter. And then I wanted to be a potter. Right? Didn't everybody want to throw a pot after you watch that movie? Of course. But you have to be careful with that sort of thing, because if you don't live in a loft, it's going to be weird. You don't want to gut your ranch house and make it look like that. So, it's another place where we would caution you that you have to really take the location and the architecture of your existing home into consideration. But on small scale, sure, you could add something that's a little bit more industrial. But I wouldn't go with the open piping and, you're showing your HVAC piping and all of that in just any old space. It's really got to work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, on the opposite end, I'm seeing maximalism too. And I think this, again, is kind of like a pendulum, because things swing one direction, then people get sick of it, and then the pendulum swings the other direction. So what was just super hot, minimalism with just very clean lines, modern, contemporary, with very little sitting out. I mean, the minimalism was so big for so long, and now people are wanting color, personality, and a lot of stuff. So, I mean, things are definitely changing. I don't think it's gone to the state that it used to be, maybe in the 90s, but it definitely moving away from that minimalistic look.
Yes. And I think that fits nicely under the umbrella of nature, comfort, warmth, because you want to be surrounded by things that you love, things that are important to you. I don't think it'll ever go back to that sort of ostentatious 90s maximalist where it was so over the top, like, bordering on Vegas kind of thing. That was just too much. And it was all sort of in itself too much. You know what I'm saying? Now people want to be surrounded with things that have meaning and things that are going to add to the comfort of their space.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the maximalist we're talking about now. So if you're adding some fringe or you're adding extra pillows or you're adding a few more things to a side table, it's to add to the personality and the warmth of the space. Pine furniture. We recently talked about pine furniture. Now, when we have 600 episodes, I can't really remember which one we talked about it in, but you made a very good distinction between new pine furniture and older pine furniture, and in itself, the quality of the wood. Now, I couldn't find anything that was telling me that we're back to the chunky ABC Furniture and Home pine armoire days, or are we back to the really refined, beautiful pine of days of yore? But pine furniture is apparently back for 2024. Did you read anything about that?
I haven't seen that, but I've been really wanting a pine bookcase, so maybe I'll find one. But it's got to be from an antique store.
Well, you're in luck.
Yep, maybe that means they boost the price up.
Oh, yeah. Well, you better hurry up before everybody hears this.
That's right. Well, I have a few days.
Yeah. Cottage core.
Well, I was going to say cozy core. I guess they're pretty close.
Well, go for it. I think it's probably one and the same.
Well, I mean, it's coziness, comfort. I mean, people want comfort when they get home. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world, and I think people want to feel safe in their homes. They want to feel comforted and loved, and so they're looking for an inviting cocoon when they get home. So I think cozy core, cottage core, these are all very comforting feelings in your home. And I think that a lot of us are looking for something that just kind of feels very familiar and very, very safe.
And I think cottage core or cozy core, whichever you prefer, came out of TikTok. I remember mid last year, one of my daughter's friends was like, "Oh, your mom is so cottage core." I was like, what is Maddie talking about? And she's like, "Oh, yeah, it's the way you decorate, Mom." And so, yeah, I took that as a little compliment. Thank you very much. But I think that's where that came from. There are a lot of cottagecore people on TikTok. And so if you're into it, you could probably find them there. And if you're into TikTok, head over and check it out. Other designers that do it well, this is the one I already mentioned today, Matilda Goad. Gorgeous in the cottagecore department, Alice Palmer, and you notice they're both Brits. So the Brits do cottagecore well, and they were cottagecore before cottagecore was cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And are you seeing, speaking of British things, when I think of the UK, I'm thinking of beautiful gardens. They really do gardens right. And what I am seeing everywhere, all over the internet, is a mention of sensory gardens. So these are gardens that provide for all the senses. So it's not just a regular garden, and these gardens are supposed to appeal to all of your 5 senses. And they were initially developed for people who might have a hearing impairment, were visually impaired, or had mobility issues. But now the concept has changed. For one thing, sensory gardens are used a lot for people with autism, but also homeowners are interested in having something like this to provide a calm, soothing sensation. And so, yes, it's something that has a wonderful scent, beautiful look, interesting to touch, and maybe some herbs in there that you can eat too. So I love the idea of it, and I don't know, we might actually put in a garden next year. We're seriously considering it.
I know a garden designer that might give you a very good hourly rate if you're interested.
Oh yes,
in her
that
services.
sounds very good.
Well, I am all about any kind of garden. So if you can get a garden in and you can make it sensory, all the better. I'm always telling clients, oh, if you're going to put some containers by your door, let's find something that smells good or smells good to you. You know, let's get those gardenias going. Let's get some lavender. But yeah, touching things and if you have opportunity to get some pollinators coming, that's a visual feast. So lots of ways that you can play in your garden so it can really excite all of your senses. Sustainability. So important. We all need to be taking this very seriously. We want to keep stuff out of landfills, and a lot of what we decorate with is big. It's going to last a long time if it goes to a landfill. And so we want to make good choices to start out with, and we want to make choices that already involve reclaim sustainable materials. If we're buying new, we want to consider buying thrift, consign, estate sale. We want to shop our own homes. We want to shop the homes of our relatives or friends before we make a big purchase. So all of this is so important. It really needs to be front of mind for everyone. And can you imagine if everyone listening to this never put another sofa in a landfill? That would make a big difference in and of itself. But think of all the things that in years past were thought about as disposable that had to do with decorating your home, and try not to make choices that will land things in landfills.
So true. This is so sad. And that is a wonderful reason to buy vintage, so things do not end up in landfills. That makes me so sad when there's a beautiful piece of furniture and nobody appreciates it. Another thing I'm seeing are murals. Murals are still popular. They've been popular, I would say, for a few years, but it seems like this is still going on and still very popular. And I'm seeing so many beautiful ones online.
Now, when you're saying murals, are you talking about hand-painted ones or ones where you're getting the wallpaper panels that act as a mural?
Wallpaper panels.
Yeah, I mean, that's just such a great offshoot of the whole adhesive wallpaper thing, which, truth be told, is not that easy to DIY. Just saying. So if you're going to do a mural, that is a lot more manageable. Maybe you're just going to get maybe 4 runs of the sheets coming down, and then you obviously can see where the pattern's coming together, and you can easily install that yourself. But doing a whole room in removable wallpaper, not that easy.
Well, I'm not into the feature wall of, where you do a wall in a color that's contrasting with the other walls. But if it's a mural, I like the idea of just one wall used as a mural.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's beautiful in a dining room. Really, really lends itself to a dining room if you've got something going on the wall and say, like, maybe there's windows on 2 of the other walls and you can really be in there and appreciate it. You have to have a wall that isn't interrupted by anything really, and to appreciate the mural. So you want to keep that in mind if you're thinking about doing something like that. Quiet luxury. Yes, that's really what I'm going for in my life's plan of decorating, right? A timeless, harmonious, subtly luxurious, high quality materials, craftsmanship, things with provenance. Doesn't have to mean that costs a lot of money, but there's some gravitas to the pieces and some personality. So if you can achieve that, then you'll span all the trend reports for going back in time and going forward in time. I think that is the way to decorate. We talk to you about that all the time, but that is really important in 2024. So if it's not a way that you're decorating right now, get on trend in 2024 and keep it going.
Are you seeing brutalism out there as a trend?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay. So brutalism, if you picture an Eastern Bloc country.
That's what I just pictured, yes.
And it's a concrete apartment building with no form, no interest, no warmth, no nothing. That's brutalism. And so, again, this is what I'm hearing, that this is coming in. And I just can't even picture how anyone would actually want this. So I'm not really getting this. But maybe it's that you take little pieces of it and maybe just have like a concrete top on a table or a countertop in a kitchen. I don't know. But when you take it whole cloth and do a whole building in it, it just does not seem like anyone would actually choose that on purpose.
No, and all I can think about when you say that is sort of these, the Eastern Bloc, like apartment buildings, and that makes me sad and, on a dreary day. I can't imagine sort of bringing that in. But when you say concrete table, I do like a concrete top table.
Very different.
So, but this might be one of those things where it kind of is a blip on the screen. Like somebody wanted to say something that was a little intriguing in the trend report that they were interviewed for. So I'm not so sure about that one. Like the colored glass that I started with earlier, here's another smaller trend for 2024 that you can incorporate and then easily remove if you decide you don't want to have it in 2025 anymore. Curtains used for purposes other than windows. Now, I know I've mentioned on certain occasions when it was appropriate that I have a curtain just sort of artfully hanging and held back, just separating my master bath from the little WC area where the toilet is. We don't ever close it. It's too small to do that. It would be really weird to be there and sort of wrapped in fabric. But it's just, it's a visual delineation and it softens the space and it does all the good things that a high hung drapery panel will do, brings your eye up, it adds some texture, all of that. And I think I recently talked about putting a curtain in front of the front door or a door.
Yes.
As a decorative option, or certainly something to keep drafts out and things like that. So think about other ways that you can use curtains other than on windows. Anita, I think, mentioned a similar sort of thing in an apartment hack bonus episode that you need to tune in for that's coming up down the line. But it's a sort of a quiet way to divide the space and can be really beautiful and might be a great opportunity to use a swath of fabric that you have that's just too lovely to keep in a box and not enough to make a full set of drapes out of or to do anything else significant with. So think about where you might be able to do that in your own home. And if it's in a doorway, you might be able to just simply put up a tension rod that you're not going to see. And that way it'll be super easy to take down, in 2025 or halfway through 2024 if you get tired of it.
Well, that's a great idea to use them in other ways. And, I have actually curtain panels behind beds with a crown on top. So, I mean, not literally a crown, but it's kind of an arch piece of wood that's carved above.
Like a tester.
Right, like a tester, but it's just the canopy basically behind the bed, and it's not a full canopy. That's right. So it's just but it's beautiful. But it's mounted on the wall. So yes, there are lots of ways to use curtains, and those are very functional when they're near a door. If it's a very cold climate, that is something that they used a lot in Europe in medieval times and probably past that time to keep the cold out. So I think that's a great idea. What about geometric walls? I see these all the time, and it's not just talk of them. I see these in new houses all the time. Now, what do I mean by that? These are walls where there are maybe 2x4s. I'm not sure they're 2x4s, but there's boards that are nailed onto the wall, and they form some sort of geometric pattern. So they can form a herringbone pattern, a diamond pattern. Sometimes it's just weird lines here and there, or they're triangles and squares. And then often this wall is painted a dark color, whereas all the other walls in the room are white. I really dislike these. I cannot tell you how much I dislike these, but I'm seeing these a lot in new homes. And my feeling is they maybe add some interest to the room and they look different. And so maybe somebody looking at them goes, oh, this is cool because it looks very different. But I think in 5 years, these are going to look so dated and you're going to want to take the wood down. That's my opinion, but there you have it.
Yeah, I don't like those either. Really seems a little bit trying too hard, particularly with the weird shapes. If you're looking to add some, because it's kind of a rift off adding some lovely molding or wainscoting or beadboard, right? It's something like
shiplap or something. It's just some way to add some interest to the wall. But this is just weird, and it doesn't feel like it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's very hard to live with a thing like that because how do you hang art? Do you have to have art in each one of the spaces, or do you just put art somewhere else, or is that is that the art? Where it does work is when I work out with Heather Robertson on my YouTube workouts. She has a beautiful dark gray wall with that type of molding behind her. Now that works great because she's working out in front of that. And it's not just a plain wall. If you have something like that going on in your life, well, it might be a nice backdrop, but I don't think it's a great backdrop for life in a home. It just doesn't seem to work.
I think I'm seeing a lot more brown furniture and less painted furniture, which is an interesting trend.
Yes. I love the brown furniture. Watch my YouTube video about how much I love brown furniture, and you're going to love brown furniture too.
Well, we have a whole episode on brown furniture, so we'll link to that as well.
And then metallic finishes. Anita mentioned the silvers and the brushed nickel and things like that coming back in lighting. I'm also seeing more metallic finishes overall, all different types of metallic finishes in things like coffee tables, shelving. I think the shelving could be really interesting. Picture a sort of burnished gold tone bookcase. That could be pretty wow in a room. Something different, something other than wood. And if you have a home that has a lot of wood in it, and we do see a lot of wood in some of our consults, and then people are always trying to figure out how to introduce other materials to sort of break up the wood and also not compete with the type of wood and the stain that's already existing there. So maybe adding something in a metal that's a pretty big piece could be great. So you might be seeing a lot of that happening in 2024. And then when I mention consults, I'm reminded to remind you all that our price is going up in 2024. Hey, it's only fair, you guys. We give so much, right? So if you want to book in for a consult with Anita and I at the 2023 price, then you need to go to our website, hit the consults button, and then you can sign up for it, pay for it. You don't have to schedule it, but we'll know that it's already in the system and you'll be granted the 2023 price. But if you don't do that before December 31st, then you're going to have the 2024 price, which is not going to be crazy. It's super fair, but it's a little bit more than what's going on right now. What are we defining today?
Well, I thought you might enjoy this. We're going to define Eastlake. And I know you've got your Victorian house. So in Victorian furniture, a Victorian style was extremely popular in the late 19th century. And if you don't know, I mean, I know you do, Kelly, but Victorian style is over the top, flourish on flourish on flourish. I mean, you overgild the lily, then you gild it again. It is maximalism to the max. So that is what Victorian design is about. And the British architect, Charles Locke Eastlake, really disliked this over-the-top Victorian style. And he was really unhappy because now to provide for the middle classes, they had really begun doing a lot of mass production of furniture. And he felt like this furniture was poorly made and did not have the craftsmanship that he thought that furniture should have. So he wrote a book entitled Hints on Household Taste in Furniture, Upholstery, and Other Details. And in this book, written in 1868, he emphasized that home furnishings should be carefully crafted. And then he became an advocate for simple, sturdy furniture. He focused on simplicity and fine craftsmanship. His book was very popular in the United States, and soon it became very popular for manufacturers to make furniture in this Eastlake style. So it tends to have geometric design. Sound familiar to the trends that we were talking about going on now? And
oh, yeah.
And frequently it exhibits different size squares and rectangles. And now it's in some ways similar to mission style furniture, but mission style has angular lines and no decoration. Now, Eastlake furniture does have embellishments, although there aren't many. They're very minimal. But the common decorations are wooden knobs or pulls, as well as acorn accents and carved leaves.
I love those acorns and carved leaves.
I know, me too.
Oh my gosh. I have several pieces like that. And I actually did a blog post on Eastlake furniture, which we can link in the show notes to give people some even more details on that whole movement. But yeah, it's beautiful. And now that you've had it defined for you, and once you see a piece, you'll see them when you're out. If you're estate selling or thrifting or consigning, you will very likely see Eastlake. It's interesting that you don't really see Eastlake reproduced.
No, that's true.
It's of its time, but I do think it's a timeless look. And certainly for 2024, when you're talking about comfort and nature and sustainability, couldn't be better than to add a piece of Eastlake furniture to your collection.
All right. What's your crush?
My crush today is a memoir that I listened to by Anna Quindlen. She's a wonderful writer. I'm sure you have all heard of her. If you haven't, she's definitely worth exploring her previous works, but something that was more along the lines of a memoir, and she reads it herself. So if you're listening to the book, you'll have the opportunity to hear her, is Lots of Candles and Plenty of Cake. It was fantastic, and it touches on all aspects of her life, from her days as a young reporter and through motherhood and whatnot, and reflections on friendship. And I found myself laughing out loud, nodding. A few surprises, but not too many. But it was I really enjoy memoirs, and I think this one is worth a listen. Lots of Candles and Plenty of Cake.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I'm going to have to check that one out. My crush is a very practical item. I do this a lot, but I find things on Amazon and other places, and I think, oh, this made my life easier. And these are the kind of things I really love sharing. So we don't drink tap water. We drink filtered water. So yes, there is an ice maker in my freezer. However, I don't like using it because it's unfiltered, city water. So we actually pour up filtered water into an ice tray. But some of these ice trays are really hard to pop the ice cubes out. And it's really gotten to where it's just hurt my thumb using the ice trays that we had. And I saw this advertised on Amazon, and I thought, I am going to try this. So what it is they're small little ice cubes, but the tray, once the ice is frozen, you put it upside down in the thing that you're going to dispense the ice in, and it has a little handle that goes on top of the ice tray, and you just push this one button down, and it empties the whole ice tray. It kind of distorts the tray so that everything comes out. And the other thing I like is the ice cubes are super small, so they go in your, skinny swell water bottles or whatever water bottle you're using. This ice cube tray has been life-changing for me, and other people in the house are actually emptying the ice tray now, not just me.
Wow.
Because it's fun to use.
That easy. Oh, and fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
Oh, great. But that is funny. When you said about the water bottle, I sometimes have to take my ice cubes and then smack them down into my water bottle or let them melt a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, they're just a little bit too big, but good for you. No, I love all of life-changing, I don't know, but they are definitely helpful items that you come up with.
Do you remember the controversial glass containers from France? I think it was Duralex.
Well, there was no controversy. Everybody was on board with them. I was just laughing because you had them as a Christmas gift.
Well, let me tell you, though. If you bought them when I did, pat yourself on the back, because
I did.
So, because that factory shut down because of energy costs, and they don't make them anymore.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, they were made in France, and they just shut it down. I think like a year or two ago during the pandemic.
Wow. Well, that was a timely crush then. So hopefully everybody got in on that. But just using the glass is better. I feel better about it. And actually, almost every time I take out one of those things and put my leftovers in, I think of you.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So much fun hanging out today. Thank you so much, whether you've been with us for one episode or 600. We are so pleased to have you here. Thank you. And remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time. Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.